Good afternoon. We begin here at 5 o'clock with a mid-October wildfire burning in Clark County. Tonight, state officials revealed the Nakia Creek fire must be human-caused since there was no lightning when it broke out on Sunday. Thank you for joining us. I'm Laurel Porter.
And I'm David Molko. At last update, the blaze had burned about 250 acres near Larch Mountain, with more than 100 homes now under some sort of pre-evacuation order in case conditions take a turn. Let's bring in our Christelle Kumwe in Washougal this evening. Christelle.
Yes, David, and Washougal is about 15 miles south of Larch Mountain where that fire started, and about 110 homes are currently under level 1, be ready, and level 2, get set evacuation orders. Although the fire has been ruled human-caused, officials have not pinpointed the origin or how exactly it started, but it's described as very remote and very rural. The Washington State Department of Natural Resources says they have multiple engine companies and 3 helicopters working on the fire and expected more helicopters to attack it from the air.
It's just waiting for the right time to say, okay, we're ready to let go.
Stephanie Warren owns a farm and daycare in Camas. She's just a mile away from the level 1 evacuation orders, which mean get ready to potentially evacuate. She has a plan in place for her family and her animals if and when the time comes.
When we're alerted that it's about an hour away, I think we're going to go. We have a plan in place. I have a giant African tortoise in the basement. We've got mini pigs. I've got donkeys. So several of our friends who are in the Vancouver area are already staged and ready to come and pick up some of the smaller farm animals.
This past Friday, the Washington State Commissioner of Public Lands declared fire season over. It was a season that saw the fewest acres burned over the past several years.
It's interesting to have this feeling here now. It is concerning. Obviously, this time last year we were soaked in rain, so it is worrisome that it's this hot this late in the year and that we're this close to fire.
Yeah, and at last check, there were 90 personnel on scene battling this blaze. David, Laurel?
Well, let's hope it doesn't come to the point where they do have to evacuate. Thank you, Christelle. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zafino with a look at the dry, hot weather we're having in October, really stretching out our fire season, Matt.
And it's going to continue to stretch out because there's no rain in sight for several more days to go. This is the long-range pattern. Where you see these big areas of orange or red or even yellow with no change in color, that's an area of very warm air. That's high pressure aloft, where you see the colors or the cooler side, the greens or the blues, and then these color bands are all close together. That's where the jet stream is. So what we want to see is this kind of a pattern over us. We don't see it. We don't see it coming for quite a while. We'll take it into the weekend, pause it on Saturday, still a big area of high pressure and dry weather over. So we'll take it into next week. High pressure gets batted down a little bit, but then reasserts itself. This is a week from tomorrow, okay? This is next Wednesday, the 19th. So we'll run it out a little bit farther, and then finally around the 21st of October, we may begin to see a pattern change. Suddenly that area of hot air and high pressure is far off to the west. We start getting systems coming in from the northwest, pardon me, and that would potentially bring us some rain. So that's what we're looking for. I'm kind of targeting that October 21st to 24th time period as to when we may finally begin to see some rain. We've had a record number of 80 and 85 degree days so far this month. And if you go back to September 1st through today, it's the 5th driest such period we've ever had. That 31/100ths of an inch of rain fell on 2 days in September. That's it. That's all we've had. Rain unlikely for the next 10 days or even longer, guys. Back to you.
Thank you, Matt. It also turns out this is Fire Prevention Week, with President Biden thanking firefighters across the microphone here. Read here.
I'll take over here. I think your mic is...
With over $300 million in grants through the American Rescue Plan, if we can get to the video here.
The president also pointed out to the impacts of climate change fueling more wildfires and making the job of fighting them more crucial and challenging than ever.
Extreme heat and prolonged drought have turned wildfire season into wildfire years, and local firefighters are being called in more to respond to the fires in the wildland-urban interface.
The president heads to California tomorrow, then arrives in Oregon on Friday. On Saturday, he'll appear at campaign events to show his support for Democratic candidate for governor Tina Kotek. And speaking of Tina Kotek, recent polls show her and Republican candidate Christine Drazan are neck and neck exactly 4 weeks from Election Day. We've been sitting down with each gubernatorial candidate to hear their stance on the homeless crisis, an issue that is top of mind for a lot of voters. Last week, we heard from Drazan and unaffiliated candidate Betsy Johnson. Today, we talked with Kotek. She wants immediate action to address the crisis on our streets, one she describes as unsafe for all Oregonians. If elected, she plans to end homelessness for many people by 2025. One part of that is building more housing and outreach teams that work directly with people who are homeless.
If homelessness is someone's top concern, why should they vote for you?
I understand how to solve this problem. I have a plan. The other ones are just talking and making, political statements. I'm not about the politics. This is about serving people. It is unsafe for people to be on the streets. And if you're living right next to someone in a tent, also unsafe for you. None of us want this. I am committed. It's about solving this problem. And I have the experience and frankly, the toughness to get it done.
We also talked about how she plans to address the affordable housing shortage and expand addiction and mental health treatment facilities. You can watch the full interview on our website. And a reminder, Election Day is November 8th.
Thanks for bearing with us. Teamwork on the tech challenges there. Let's get to new developments for former Beaverton Mayor Denny Doyle, who has now pleaded guilty to possession of child pornography. The U.S. Attorney's Office charged Doyle back in March and accused him of possessing explicit digital images of children under 12. This was back in 2014 to 2015. That is during his time as mayor. Doyle will be sentenced next January. He faces a maximum of 20 years in federal prison.
It's a positive. It's a good change. There's still a lot of work to be done.
That is a Portland Thorns supporter reacting to a major shakeup atop the Thorns and Timbers soccer clubs. Merritt Paulson is out as CEO of both teams. The news comes after an international law firm identified the Thorns as an organization that fostered a culture of sexual and emotional abuse. Mike Benner joins us from outside Providence Park tonight. Mike, what is Merritt Paulson saying about this change in leadership?
Yeah, Merritt Paulson released a statement apologizing to the players, the organizations, and the Portland community. He said he is devastated that his goal of creating the shining example of what a women's sports team could be is now synonymous with abhorrent and predatory behavior. Paulson removing himself as CEO of both the Thorns and Timbers comes a little more than a week after an international law firm released the findings of a months-long investigation into allegations of abuse in the National Women's Soccer League. The investigation revealed a toxic culture of sexual, emotional, and verbal abuse across the NWSL and within the Thorns organization. Former coach Paul Riley is to blame for a lot of that. But the investigation also showed patterns of misconduct by Merritt Paulson and front office staffers Gavin Wilkinson and Mike Golub, who were dismissed last week. One fan we spoke with is glad Paulson is tapping himself out as CEO, but she says he still must sell the teams.
So we do know that it's probably going to take a little bit, but we do hope that, those steps are being made to finally sell.
I think if they remove him as owner, it would be a token move. And I think the better thing is to get him out of the operations of this team. And if people want to take a deeper look at the ownership structure of the Timbers and the Thorns, great. But saying simply that he must sell the team, what does that mean? They create a new LLC and, somebody else is in charge of it?
And that, of course, was sports columnist and radio show host John Canzano. He does not think Merritt Paulson needs to sell the teams. He says Paulson removing himself as CEO does the trick. And speaking of which, Merritt Paulson says that the search for a new CEO will stretch across the globe and players will have a chance to meet the final candidates so that their voices can be heard in this process. Back to you.